Hey everyone, happy Be Free Friday. Amber here. I'm excited to be leading our discussion this week. This isn't normally my week to do it, but Sarah and I are trading off this week. It turned out really good that I'm doing it this week though, because I also was able to lead our podcast on Monday about being righteous. So I'm going to take the opportunity for our Be Free Friday today to dive a little bit deeper into what it means to be righteous. If you listen to the podcast, if you didn't listen to it, go and listen to it because not like I'm awesome or anything like that, but it was a really powerful episode for me personally in learning about righteousness and getting a new grasp on what that word means. But I think it would be for you too. So go listen to it if you haven't already listened to it. If you did listen to it, then you know that one of the things we learned about righteousness this week is that righteousness isn't only right living or living up to some moral code. Righteousness means right relationship. That was a new concept for me personally, and it's really shifted my thinking about what righteousness is and how it relates to my life. So if righteousness means right relationship, that means right relationship between not only us and other people, but us and God. I read or listened to a really interesting podcast this week. It's a sermon from a church called Woodland Hills Church, and the teaching pastor was Seth McCoy. Go check it out. I really love their sermons. They're really good. But he did a sermon about the Beatitudes, about Matthew 5:13 is the verse I'm going to be talking about. And it was talking about being the salt of the earth. So I'm going to read the verse for you. It's Matthew 5:13, and it says, "You are the salt of the earth, but if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot." I know we've probably heard this verse a lot and heard about what it means to be salty or to be the salt of the earth, but I thought that Seth had a take on it that I had not heard before, and that was that at the time this was written, salt wasn't only used to add flavor to food, it was also used to preserve meat. And if that is being compared to what our lives are supposed to do, that means that being the salt of the earth means a preservation of relationships and of people. And with our podcast being about right relationship this week, it really stood out to me that a right relationship with other people means a preservation of relationships. And I don't know about you, but when I think about some of my relationships, it's not always as one preserving. It can be hostile sometimes and not always the most Christ-like. And so that was super convicting for me to think about being a preserver of relationships. And I want to encourage you to take an evaluation of your relationships and think, are you being a preserver? Are you being a preserver of relationships? Now, this is all well and good to talk about in relationship to other people, but as you heard on our podcast on Monday, our relationship with other people is only as good as our relationship is with the Lord. I loved what C.S. Lewis had to say. He likened our relationships like a wheel, and we are the spokes on the wheel, and our relationship to the other spokes is only as accurate as our relationship is to the hub, which is a really beautiful illustration to me. So let's talk about the hub, which would be God. I think that a lot of times our relationship with God can get skewed and we can get out of line with Him because we forget who He is. It's like we kind of impose our own sinful nature onto God, and we think that He is unloving to us or is unjust or unkind. And it's not intentional, but it's really easy to start thinking about God in the ways that we think about ourselves or that we think about other people. And so in our Be Together community group this week, we simply started talking about who God is. I encouraged everyone to just post a reminder of who God is, not only in their life, but in the world. I think we need this reminder in our nation today, in our own personal lives, in our families, in our church. So, your Be Free Friday homework this week is to post who God is. Use a scripture to go along with it. It's always best if we can relate what we're saying back to scripture. So post on Twitter or on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever, and use the hashtag GodIs. And let's encourage each other this week with the reminder of who God is. And let's start focusing on that, because once we get aligned there with who God is, who Christ is, that's when we're going to be aligned with one another. And we can really start being that salt of the earth and being preservers of relationships. I hope you guys have an awesome week. I love y'all, and we will talk to you soon. Bye.